Please welcome Chief Executive Officer, TripAdvisor, Steve Kaufer, in discussion with Skift Executive Director, Founding Editor, Dennis Schall.
Hello, everybody. We're down to the last two big ones, TripAdvisor and Facebook. Steve, we're honored that you're here. We got Yahoo Finance peering in also, so it's all good. So, Steve, Arne Sorensen was on the stage this morning from Marriott, and he was talking about, he was talking about Cuba, he was talking about LGBT rights, and he was saying that he only takes a political stance on issues that really impact his company. You've been very outspoken about Trump, but also about refugees, and I believe DACA. So, why do you feel so strongly to speak out on some of these issues?
Well, I thought Arne actually gave a really thoughtful, good answer, and I'd echo much of the same sentiments. When it comes to the refugees, I just look at it and say, these are travelers that don't want to be traveling. And that's our ecosystem, that's our, the right to travel, but the desire to be able to help folks that don't want to be there. They don't want to be going to somebody else's land. But those are the circumstances. And we are in a position, we are all, but certainly in the travel category, in a position to raise awareness, to help. And so we reach out to our audience, not just say a few things on the air, but reach out to our membership looking for, can folks help? Can folks help with the contribution? Can folks help by raising the voice of this can't stand, this can't be just another crisis that no one's going to pay attention to?
And the latest travel ban?
Well, the original travel ban, certainly illegal, hastily implemented, terribly designed. Nobody can argue that every country doesn't have the right to keep their citizens safe. But it is just, in my view, pandering to baseless fears to make these blanket statements that just don't represent the facts of preventing violence in your country. And so it's not illegal immigration that has caused some of the ailments in this country or others, but that's a scapegoat over there. Mm-hmm. And I just violently, bad word, I clearly object to that type of behavior. And you can go forward with DACA. I mean, these are kids that did not break the law. They were brought to this country by their parents. And I mean, I find it so frustrating that this country is just not more welcoming to people who deserve to be here, and in our industry to tourists that want to come here but are clearly getting a message of, better make sure the US is a place you want to go to because you may be hassled at the border. Mm-hmm. And that's just ridiculous.
Totally agree. On a much more lighter note, we had the then Expedia CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi, here last year, and I was just about to ask him about TripAdvisor Instant Booking, because at the time, Expedia was not part of TripAdvisor Instant Booking. It wanted to be. It was a sensitive subject. I was just about to ask him about that, and he turned to me and said, Dennis, where are the softball questions? Why don't you ask me about my favorite vacation place? So in that spirit, Steve, what is the trendiest place on TripAdvisor right now? And have you been there? I want to know.
So I was looking at some numbers earlier, and I would tell everyone Iceland, and Reykjavik in particular, is absolutely up and coming with, we through our attraction business offer a cool new Explore Iceland. And I have not been there, I must confess, but it's in the short version of my bucket list.
Skift took our first company trip to Iceland.
Oh,
and
cool.
I know you're going to fail this test, and I will fail it too. Can you pronounce the name of the volcano that erupted in Iceland? It's impossible. The Icelanders laugh at us when we try.
Mountain E is what I would call it, yes.
There you go. For those of you who aren't up to speed on TripAdvisor, it's an iconic brand. We all know it. And it's been through many changes over the years. It started out posting newspaper articles about destinations, and then discovered user reviews, and it practically invented user-generated content. Then it went to, it got rid of its pop-up ads, and it got into meta search and instant booking. And recently, the site was redesigned, and instant booking was downplayed a little bit. I don't know if you would characterize it as that, but that's how I see it. At any rate, yesterday during one of the sessions, we had Mark Mahaney from RBC Capital Markets, and he said some things that sounded a little harsh about TripAdvisor. He said there had been, and Steve, don't blame the messenger here, I'm innocent until proven guilty. He said there'd been very little product innovation in the hotel product at TripAdvisor in recent years, that profits had suffered. I'm sure you've heard this all before. He said TripAdvisor would benefit if it was acquired by a strategic partner. He said Priceline is probably not going to be the one. Google would maybe be ideal, but it wouldn't, pass antitrust muster. So I just wanted to give you a chance to either respond to that or basically say where you feel TripAdvisor is at these days.
Sure, I of course must take issue on the product and the innovation. When you look at the fact that we have 400+ million unique users a month, and it continues to grow double digits at the scale that we have, that's not new news. That's been continuing because we're doing something that consumers think is right. And it's delivering that honest, unbiased, unvarnished information about where you want to go, where you want to stay, what you want to do, where you want to eat, all adding alternative lodging into the mix and all the rest of what we've built. So when we look at the product innovation, we look at the redesign that we've done, the focus on making sure we're absolutely surfing the best price possible for all the hotels. And you look at our new app, and our travelers love what we've done. They're not asking for another feature whiz-bang, something here, something there. They're looking for help planning the trip. And to that, we've done, I think, a great job helping to build those trip memories. What are you going to do on your vacation? Well, instead of half a dozen bookable attractions on our site, we got 50,000. I mean, just the amount of new abilities that we have to help people build that memory. When we look at restaurant reservations, we've added the ability to make it easy for people to make a reservation all over the globe. Tons of different languages.
But it's the hotel business where the real money is, right? And is that increasing? Are they, the switch to mobile? What's the trend there?
So mobile has been mobile's a headwind and a tailwind for us. It's a headwind in terms of revenue because people buy less on the phone and when they're using a research site like TripAdvisor and they don't get yet that we do this amazing price comparison capabilities, then they're on the phone, they research, they go home, they come back the next day, and perhaps they go directly to another site, the hotel site or an OTA site to buy, and we don't get any credit from our revenue model. But the phone is our path to securing that user, not just in the planning phase, but on destination. Nobody's lugging their laptop around, let alone their desktop. They've got the TripAdvisor app or mobile website in their pocket wherever they are. And, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging too much here, but we have a ton of usage in destination where we're solving a very real problem that most of our competitors aren't even trying to touch yet. Mm-hmm. Excellent. So we do make more money in hotels now than in attractions and restaurants. But the seeds we planted 3, 4, and more years ago in those other categories, they're now bearing fruit. In our last earnings call, we talked about attractions. we've got some really nice things that are growing up as part of that full ecosystem. And then when you look at the competitive set, they are strong in their category, but we're the folks that have that full solution.
Do your shareholders, though, have the patience to wait another 3 or 4 years for some of these seeds to bear fruit?
You know, my view is TripAdvisor has an incredible amount of brand trust, incredible amount of kind of love. I don't want to go traveling without checking TripAdvisor because we're instrumental. That's fabulous for hotels around the globe, restaurants, attractions. That's one of the reasons why our audience keeps growing. With those as assets, we have a board of directors that is patient as we stitch this together. So we have a pressure on our hotel business, competitive pressures, but we have a really good product that's getting better every quarter. Amen. And we have an awesome position in attractions, the best restaurant content globally than anyone else. I don't think anyone would dispute that. Pull that together as part of the trip, and we have a really nice, growing story. For the long-term shareholder, for our board, that makes all the sense in the world, and that's why my job is to continue to stitch that together, make it more personal, give better recommendations on all sorts of things, the hotel, the restaurant attraction, so that the site becomes stickier and you keep coming back to us rather than anyone else.
So to get people to recognize that you're doing more than reviews, you have the hotel search and stuff, you launched an ad campaign. How many people have seen the new TripAdvisor ad campaign with the owl? How many people like it? Okay. So the commercials, they talk about finding the best prices, getting up to 30% off on hotels. The wordage is, trust this bird's words, TripAdvisor, the latest reviews, the lowest prices. So I get some of my best questions or maybe some of my worst questions when I go out at night. And I went out with a so-called, or a branding expert. And you know, you've heard all this before. There's a million opinions about your ad campaign, I'm sure. And she made the argument that the ad campaign doesn't work, that it was a mistake to use the owl, because what you really need to do is you really need to shake people up. Instead of having all this continuity with the owl as the original logo of TripAdvisor, that it needed to be something much more shocking and fresh to jolt people into realizing that this is a new TripAdvisor. So what would you say to that?
You're right. With the very first statement, everyone has their opinions about the ad. I can think of other companies out there that have done really big, loud TV campaigns where I don't think anyone liked the ad when it first
Captain
came out.
Obvious?
That wasn't actually the spokesperson I was thinking of.
Okay.
But when you look at what an ad needs to do, it needs to be super clear who's actually doing the advertising, right? Side note, I was watching an ad on TV a couple of nights ago, and I got to the end of the ad, and I turned to my wife, I'm like, don't know what company ran that ad. I'm like, complete waste of money. Beautifully produced ad, no effect on me. You can't watch this ad and not know it's not a TripAdvisor ad, in part because of the owl, that recognizable logo around the world. Point two, does the ad deliver a clear message? Or is it trying to tell you 16 things at once? No, this ad tells you, hey, come to TripAdvisor and we'll show you the lowest price from 200 sites all around the web. Price, price, price. And we chose that deliberately because we're already known for our user-generated content, for our reviews, for our candid photos, for all the great advice you get. We're not as well known as a place to find the lowest price. So let's not mix up all those other messages and teach people that, oh, you can do this on TripAdvisor.
So is it effective? What are you seeing?
So as I said in the last earnings call, we've seen the green shoots. We've seen people come to the site telling us it's because they saw the ad. Ad campaigns aren't going to be effective in a 1-month or a 3-month spurt. We told the world, hey, we're building this campaign and we're going to be building it next year as well.
Okay.
And I'm not going to look and say, this is the perfect creative, because we are a test and learn company. I don't know if it's the best we can do. So no one should interpret anything if we also have a different campaign in a different market, if we try new stuff. It doesn't mean this one didn't work. It means we're trying to see whether we can do even better than current campaign. But as I was saying, so do people know it's TripAdvisor? Of course they do. Do people get the message? Absolutely. And are we running it enough? In our markets, we are. So there's just the wait. So
Can you say anything about next year? I think this year you committed to spend $70 million on ads. Can you say anything about next year, whether there'll be new markets or a greater spend?
So we haven't gone into our 2018 budget commentary. What we have said publicly before is that we were spending $70 million. It's only on half the year, and it's not in all of our markets. So you can't extrapolate one way or the other, but we've been clear it's not a kind of one shot and we're done campaign.
I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a certain company called Trivago. They've sort of been on TV a little bit lately.
I've heard lots of people love their spokesman or woman.
And they have both now. So, but the same branding expert, it's great to go out to restaurants on Friday nights, told me that Trivago is way outspending you, but apparently their brand equity numbers, how people relate to the brand or identify with the brand is very low. So maybe it's not as effective as it could be. But at any rate, Trivago, you have to compete against Trivago, you have to compete against Booking.com and Expedia on the air. Are some of those players, is Trivago and is Google? Google has been getting very heavily involved with hotels and flights. Are they making gains at your expense? What are you seeing?
Oh, it's hard to know the exact math, but you look at Trivago's growth and you say, yeah, they've taken some customers that probably would have come to TripAdvisor. I believe they've taken some customers that would have gone direct to Expedia or Priceline or Booking or Agoda or anyone else. They have a good product. It's a narrow product just on hotels, and I think they would absolutely agree with that. When you look at the capabilities that TripAdvisor has to offer and our existing brand awareness globally, those are powerful assets that Trivago or anyone else doesn't really have. Some have, Expedia and Booking have tremendous brands, but not in the breadth of the offering. So again, we're all coming at the challenge of succeeding in this travel marketplace with a different set of strengths, and so far we're all successful at it.
Let's talk about non-hotels. That seems to be a bright spot for TripAdvisor. You have restaurants, you have tours and activities, and you have vacation rentals. You just said earlier that you feel that your restaurant content is unparalleled. I've heard people say, though, Airbnb just did the partnership with Resy, another dining reservation platform, and it appears that content is really a big trend in the dining space in terms of guides, lists, recommendations. And TripAdvisor's restaurant pages, you have the photos, you have the reviews, but there hasn't been a lot new in terms of this, other kind of compelling content about experiences. And so what can you do to improve there?
You can attack or challenge yourself to go after the restaurant space in lots of different ways. A very high-end or niche experience from a Resy with a very limited set of restaurants, that's not a bad strategy for that company. But we have 4 million restaurants on the platform. We have reviews.
Not for reservations, just
not for
reviews.
Reservations,
right.
But lots of times I don't make a reservation when I go out to eat because I'm not going to a restaurant that even takes reservations. We're there for you. We're giving you a recommendation that this is the best Thai food in Newton, Massachusetts. That's not covered by that wonderful experience, but it's a great recommendation, and that's where I live, and that's the type of food I want tonight. So TripAdvisor is where I turn to for that. And while there often is a local competitor in that one part of the world, we're the only global player. And at the amount of reviews we're collecting, the amount of machine learning that we're doing to deliver better and better recommendations, the shelves that we've produced on the app and mobile website to get you to the right restaurant at the right time, and the media business we're building behind it, it's tremendous service.
I was talking to Dara, again, from Expedia for the oral history of online travel that I did. And one of the things he said that was interesting was when Expedia spun off TripAdvisor, one of the things he regretted was letting you get away with the vacation rental business. Like, he felt like he should have hung on to that. He had to go out and buy HomeAway, you know, sort of to make up for that. But when I hear you guys talk about non-hotels, the emphasis to me, and I could be wrong, seems to be on tours and activities. You know, you've talked about that as being the next $1 billion business, I believe. Is vacation rentals, of the three components of non-hotels, is that the lowest priority for you? Because it seems like maybe that's the space with the most competition. You know, you're the leader in tours and activities with the acquisition of Viator. So is vacation rentals sort of a lower priority just because it's so competitive?
I'd say there's less of a meaningful upside for the hundreds of millions of people visiting our site. That's how we look at the world. When travelers come to the site, what are they looking to do? Well, a whole bunch of them are looking to eat. So how do we have the best product for that? And that's like hundreds of millions of people. Same with activities. What am I going to do when I'm there? That's cementing the memory of this travel experience. How do we make that fabulous all around the globe? And I kind of think we're just getting started in some of those pieces. Vacation rentals, it may be organized as a separate business inside of TripAdvisor, but it's all just part of the lodging choice for the consumer. Hey, where am I going to stay? And so we feel we need to have good vacation rental inventory, because that's the right choice for the family going to Cape Cod for the week. It's just a better choice than a hotel. We need to have it there. It's not going to be a Airbnb-sized business for us. There's competitive dynamics, but I don't need it to be. I just need to have a really solid offering for that type of lodging use case, which we do.
And in the same way, you chose not to make your big push in restaurants in the US because OpenTable was strong. It seems like you went for Europe because there was a competitive opening there.
In the reservation space, yes. In the restaurant media space, we've launched products that will help any one of the 4 million restaurants broadcast what's really great about their restaurant to the audience that's on our pages. And one of these days, helping to shift demand to that restaurant as another type of media product, which works globally for us.
Right. On the hotel side, when you first started doing instant booking, a lot of the hoteliers seemed to be hoping that TripAdvisor would become, a real force in hotels, sort of to blunt what was going on with Expedia and Priceline. Have you been making any progress in building relations with hotels and getting their loyalty rates? Because that seems to be, someone told me the other day that RoomKey, which is the hotel, all the hotels have gotten together, the chains, to launch RoomKey, that all of a sudden that's doing a lot better than it was because of the loyalty rates. Are you going to get those on TripAdvisor?
I can't think of an exception to the statement of we have a great relationship with the big chain hotels. They look at sites like TripAdvisor and say, all right, this is the unbranded leisure demand, if they want to put it in a bucket, and how can they compete on our platform to get that booking away from the other hotel, but also away from the OTA channel. So when we look at what we can do to offer or to make that reservation special. We can help them make their reputation stronger. That's the biggest thing in the world. And we have all sorts of tools, some free, some partnerships with us, that help build up the great things other people say. We have a display business that does that as well, helping to move demand along. And anytime we can get a price to help someone say, yeah, this is actually a cheaper option to buy this hotel, that's great for us.
Right. I want to leave like 3 minutes for audience questions. So could we start with those? Yay, it's there. If I could only see it. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Your favorite topic, I'm sure. What is your next level of tech development to identify fake reviews?
Look, we think we lead the field in detecting reviews that aren't accurate. Why do I say this? Because I can go onto some of the sites that will offer you, hey, we will, for $10, we'll post 10 reviews on site A, site B. Sorry, we don't do TripAdvisor. I mean, it's these individuals or companies that are saying, we can't get past the TripAdvisor fraud detection mechanism. We've got 17, 18 years of doing this, so we don't feel like there's a need to go to that next level because we're already there. You can't, it's darn hard, if not impossible, to scam our system. Folks do not often like what is written about them, which is why we've always provided the free tools to respond to reviews. And we know, and we encourage owners in the audience who are listening to use those free services, because consumers are pretty smart and they will look at both sides of the equation. Negative review followed by an honest appraisal by the owner actually goes a long way to helping get someone to stay or eat at your establishment.
Steve, you've historically been a pretty acquisitive company, mostly small acquisitions. How has your M&A strategy changed? It seems like slowed down a little bit.
In terms of dollar amount, yeah, because about 3 years ago we bought both La Fourchette and Viator. I'd say we still have a very healthy balance sheet, so we are certainly open to acquisitions, be they small tuck-in, a bit of technology here, a small brand that we think we can make bigger, or a larger movement. We have the firepower, as they say, and we're just careful about where we use it to make sure the bet's worth it.
And Steve, it's not me asking you this question, it's someone in the audience. Everyone is wondering who might buy you, but what companies are you possibly, no, I want to ask, have there been any nibbles? Have there been any serious nibbles in the last year or so from companies that you've had to consider?
Seriously, my job is to grow the company for the long term. I'm super consistent about that. We look at the size of the travel audience, the folks that should be using TripAdvisor, who are using TripAdvisor now and should be using it for more parts of the travel journey, and say there's plenty of growth opportunity.
So there's been no nibbles, I guess. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dennis.